What's up everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we'll be learning about converting radian and degree measures. So by this point you should know about the unit circle, you should know what these 4 points on its coordinate grid are, and you should know how to draw when given a radian measure or a degree measure. So before we start today's actual lesson, let's go over a little bit of review. So right now we're going to draw our unit circle over here. We're going to have pi 0 over here, pi over 2 here, pi here, and then 3 pi over 2 over here. And now that we got all this ready, let's say I gave you a degree measure that I wanted you to draw on this unit circle, and let's say that I gave you 60 degrees. So if you think about it, and if you actually tried to imagine where to draw it, you'd probably get the answer drawing it right here. This is what it'd look like around this area. That is where 60 degrees on the unit circle is. But this is all review, so as we move on to today's actual lesson, what if I asked you to convert from 60 degrees to its radian counterpart? What if I asked you to convert from a degree measure of 60 degrees to a radian measure? Well, to do that, it's actually pretty easy. All we have to do is use a specific formula. So if you're converting from degrees to radians, all you have to do is take the degree measure given to you, so in this case 60 degrees, and multiply that by pi over 180. Well, if we follow that throughout, we get 60 pi over 180, and then 60 pi over 180 can be simplified to pi over 3. And hopefully this makes sense, because what if in the beginning, instead of 60 pi, I asked you, or instead of 60 degrees, I asked you to draw pi over 3 on this unit circle? Well, hopefully you would have drawn it in the same exact place you would have drawn 60 degrees. Therefore, that means that the radian measure of pi over 3 is equal to the degree measure of 60 degrees. So what if we want to convert from radians to degrees? Well, it's the exact opposite of converting from degrees to radians. So to convert from radians to degrees, and let's say in the beginning we were given a radian measure of pi over 3 instead of 60 degrees, we would take pi over 3, and now instead of pi over 180 we'd multiply that by 180 over pi. And if we follow this throughout, we get 180 pi over 3 pi. These two pi's cancel out, and then 180 over 3 can be simplified to 60, which means we end up with an answer of 60 degrees. And hopefully, once again, this makes sense, because when we convert from a radian measure of pi over 3, we get 60 degrees, and when we convert from a degree measure of 60 degrees, we get a radian measure of pi over 3. So now that we've went over this and you guys have hopefully understood the formulas to converting radian and degree measures, let's go on to our practice problems. So right here for practice problem 1, we have our grid right here, and let's say we have a unit circle, obviously, and then we have our points right here, 0, pi over 2, pi, and 3 pi over 2. So now let's say that I gave you the degree measure of 30 degrees, and I want you to draw it on this unit circle and then convert from degrees to radians. Well, hopefully you would draw this right here. That's where 30 degrees would be about. And now you want to convert that from a degree measure to a radian measure. So as we went over in the beginning, to convert from degrees to radians, all we want to do is multiply the degree measure by pi over 180. So right here, we would take 30 degrees, which is the degree measure given to us, and just multiply that by pi over 180. And then if we do that, we can get 30 pi over 180, and then we can simplify that to pi over 6, which means that pi over 6 is in fact our radian measure to the degree measure of 30 degrees. These two are equal. So let's go on to practice problem 2, and in practice problem 2, I'm going to ask you to draw the degree measure of 225 degrees and then convert that to radians. So hopefully you would draw this right about here. This is where it would be, somewhere around here. And now to convert this to radian measures, we would do just what we have been doing as in practice problem 1. We would take 225 degrees and then we multiply that by pi over 180. That would give us 225 pi over 180. And then if you simplify this properly, you should get the answer of 5 pi over 4. So this means that the radian measure of 5 pi over 4 is equal to the degree measure of 225 degrees. So hopefully with this practice, you now understand how to convert from degrees to radians. So now let's do the opposite. Let's learn, or let's practice, how to convert from radians to degrees. So as we move on to practice problem 3, I'm going to ask you to draw the radian measure of 2 pi over 3. So now that I've given you this radian measure, I want you to imagine that this is the unit circle, and then I want you to draw 2 pi over 3, and hopefully you're going to draw it somewhere around here. So that is in fact where 2 pi over 3 would go, and now we want to convert that to its degree measure form. So remember, just as we did in the beginning, we'd start with 2 pi over 3, and now instead of multiplying it by pi over 180, we're going to multiply it by 180 over pi. So as we go down here, we multiply 2 pi over 3 by 180 over pi. That would give us 360 pi over 3 pi. The pi's would cancel out, and then 360 divided by 3 equals 120 degrees. And hopefully, once again, this makes sense, because if I told you to graph or draw 120 degrees on this, you would have put it in the same exact position as you have 2 pi over 3. So therefore, the degree measure of 120 degrees is equal to the radian measure of 2 pi over 3. So as we go on to practice problem number 4, I'm going to ask you to draw the radian measure of 4 pi over 4. And this is actually a really easy problem if you understand it, because 4 pi over 4 is basically equal to pi. And if you remember the unit circle, then you would know that pi is right here on this part, on the left part of the x-axis. So therefore, if I told you to draw 4 pi over 4, you should come out with something like that. So that is what you should have. So now that we've drawn it, I want you to convert 4 pi over 4, which is equal to pi, to its degree measure. So all we have to do now, instead of using 4 pi over 4, we can just make it pi over 1, because it will be easier. And then we multiply that by 180 over pi. That'll give us 180 pi over pi. And then if we cancel out the pi's, we just end up with 180 degrees. And once again, this should make sense because pi is equal to 180 degrees. The degree measure of 180 degrees is equal to the radian measure of 4 pi over 4, or pi. And for our last practice problem, I want you to draw the radian measure of 7 pi over 6. So once again, hopefully you know that 7 pi over 6 would be drawn right here, somewhere around here. That is where it would be drawn. And now I want you to convert this to its degree measure. So once again, we're going to take 7 pi over 6, and we're going to multiply that by 180 over pi. (180 times 7 pi equals 1260 pi. 6 times pi equals 6 pi. The pi's cancel out, and 1260 divided by 6 equals 210. Which means that the degree measure of 210 degrees is equal to the radian measure of 7 pi over 6. So hopefully by watching this video and today's lesson, you've learned how to convert from radian measures to degree measures, and from degree measures to radian measures. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and please consider dropping a like and subbing. Thank you for watching.